She-Ra and the Princess of Power, failed. Thundercats Roar, failed. Teen Titans Go, failed. And now, Masters of the Universe Revelation, failed. Which begs the question, why is Hollywood messing around with people's childhood memories? And what is the purpose of it? There's no sports league unlike it anywhere in the world, where cartoons and football come together. This is the United States Cartoon Football League, celebrating its 40th anniversary.
Let's get ready to rumble!
Greetings, cartoon and football fans. This is Robbie Graham of the USCFL Network. In this special video, I will look into the way Hollywood has turned great and wonderful animated franchises into whatever it has become now. Before I continue, I wish to thank you for subscribing to this channel. I admit my videos aren't flashy. It's only because I don't have the experience or the technology to make them more eye-appealing. But this channel does provide good entertainment nonetheless. So subscribe to this channel and join our team. Right now, 67 subscribers have found us interesting, and you will too. In the last several years, animated characters have been brought back for a new generation of children. But at what price exactly? Showrunners apparently never saw the original series material and tried to make a reboot based on it. We will look at 4 examples of this and why they have been so criticized. And if you'll pardon the football jargon, we will give out both touchdowns and unsportsmanlike conduct penalties concerning certain facts. First, let's start with one rebooted show that made the biggest waves of all, She-Ra and the Princesses of Power. For now, let's find out why the original She-Ra scores a lot of touchdowns. She-Ra may have ridden on the waves made by He-Man, but she was created on the premise that girls liked He-Man every bit as much as boys did. The Princess of Power line of action figures were the second such set of girl-oriented figures. Commercials featuring the She-Ra action figure was shown upon like a boy's action figure would. However, like Barbie, the She-Ra action figure did have brushable hair and interchanging outfits. Mattel has made the action figures, but it was Filmation who created She-Ra's backstory, lore, and legacy for fans of the show that they fondly remember. It's been said that 20% of girls at the time liked and watched the He-Man series, and I suppose the same could be said of boys liking She-Ra. She-Ra did provide three things that boys did find her appealing. First, although not a mother herself, She-Ra had a nurturing quality that a mother will have. Second, He-Man appeared in 22 She-Ra episodes and the action scenes that also boys liked as well. And yes, She-Ra is pretty, and there's no denying that. Boys will develop crushes on pretty girls and women, and there is nothing wrong with that. Girls swoon over handsome men, and again, there is nothing wrong with that. I admit I too had a crush on She-Ra. But there's one thing that you need to remember, that She-Ra was fighting a war and not looking for a date for Saturday night. Bo and the Seahawk liked her a lot, and you can see it with open eyes, hearts, and minds. Of all the shows Filmation ever produced, She-Ra's 93 episodes were the third most, with Fat Albert and He-Man having more. The reason for this was Mattel pulled the plug on both the Masters of the Universe and Princess of Power line of action figures after it only made the company just $7 million in 1986, when it grossed $400 million the year before. Filmation had no choice but to pull the plug on the She-Ra series. When this happened, who knows, there could have been lost episodes out there that have yet to be discovered. When He-Man's 2002 remake came out, She-Ra was to join the show in 2004, only for the series to be canceled after the 2003 season. They did make a sketch of her, and she looked more badass than she did in 1985. Sadly, though, it seems that She-Ra has gotten the short end of a big stick still held by He-Man. Now, for the unsportsmanlike conduct penalties concerning the new series, and there's lots of them. Like most people, when I heard that She-Ra was coming back to television after more than 30 years out of the spotlight, I was excited about it. I saw the initial trailer for it, and I said to a friend of mine who told me and gave me the YouTube link for the new show's trailer that this new version would never fly with fans of the original series. Little did I know at the time there was a huge controversy on social media concerning the reboot. Let's review just what happened. DreamWorks Animation, a division of NBC Universal, bought the entire Filmation library of shows, which included the original She-Ra series. The showrunner for this show, a young woman named Noelle Stevenson, was born 5 years after the original series ended. She even said that she created the series. That right there is a huge red flag. How can you create a show when you weren't even born yet? Then DreamWorks had the great idea of going on a media blitz in which they ridiculed the original She-Ra for being one-dimensional, scantily clad, slut-shaming her, accusing of older men, such as myself, for not liking the new She-Ra because she wasn't pretty enough for us to jerkin our gherkins with. And throwing the people behind the original series under the bus didn't help matters either. The media blitz got so bad that Melindy Britt, the original voice of the original She-Ra, made a statement on Facebook in September 2018 to state, for the most part, that there's room for all cartoon characters in this world and no reason to ridicule the fans, animators, writers, and voice actors of the original series like they had. Miss Stevenson, along with Marcus Scribner, who voiced the new Bo, and Amy Carrero, the new voice of She-Ra, admitted at a Comic-Con in New York in 2019 that they never saw the original series. And when the show's second season came out, Larry DiTillio, who was a co-creator of the original series, had passed away and wasn't properly acknowledged. As for the show itself, in my opinion, was the worst show I've ever seen. There were a few bright spots, but the way the show was overall outshadowed anything that could have been good. I agree that episodes like Princess Prom and Roll With It were among the worst. The talk was that Princess Prom was made because apparently whoever wrote that episode was jaded about the junior or senior prom when they were in high school, and the episode made up for it. Not to sound like I'm prejudiced, because Noelle Stevenson is part of the LGBT community, the show should be that way too. Once again, any She-Ra fan who's straight got the flack because they called it out as such. She-Ra and Catra were bitter enemies in the original series. In the new series, there was more shipping going on by mostly pairing Adora and Catra. UPS and FedEx should ship that much. It's also been said that Filmation hired the largest concentration of LGBT employees in Hollywood at the time. Even Lou Scheimer's daughter Erica is LGBT and voiced straight characters. Another problem with the new series was it was trying to be too diverse. There's nothing wrong with being diverse, but if the original series wasn't that way to begin with, then any remake or reboot should try to remain within the original show's premise. I'm all for diversity, but it has to be done right. And what's up with making characters who were redheads initially made out to be pariahs in today's world? I admit redheads are rare these days, but please, just about every redheaded animated character are now brunettes, and it's wrong. And for the worst part of the new series was, in my opinion, it seriously lacked what the original show had. Not knowing what Grayskull was, excluding He-Man out of the series altogether. But we'll give Miss Stevenson a pass on that because she didn't have the rights to the He-Man series. But for what it's worth, the new series did bring She-Ra back into relevance again, but not in the way this great character deserved. I dare you to go up to Wonder Woman and say she's a slut for the way she's dressed. She'll put you through a brick wall without a second thought. And slut-shaming She-Ra was, in my opinion, the biggest problem by far. On a side note, as far as the USCFL is concerned, we leave whatever legacies these characters have, good, bad, or whatever it is, alone. In the USCFL, She-Ra has a different legacy. She-Ra joined the USCFL as an independent team in 1987. She became a two-time champion within the first 2 years of her existence in the league. She lost to He-Man in 1990 in Go for the Gold 25 that was named the Dream Game, as both He-Man and She-Ra fans enjoyed their favorite characters all at the same time. They met independently a total of 16 times, with the balance of power being even. They merged to form the Masters of Power in 1995. They won Go for the Gold 48 in 2011 as a unified team, and won again last year in Disney Bowl 3 with other Filmation All-Stars. She-Ra holds various personal and team records, along with single game and seasonal records, as well as along with Daphne Blake and Smurfette. She-Ra is considered one of the 3 greatest quarterbacks in USCFL history. And for the 2 exhibition matches the 2 She-Ras had are now the greatest games ever played in USCFL history. Now for Thundercats Roar. But first, let's talk about the original Thundercats series and the touchdowns it gets. I admit I never watched the Thundercats when it originally aired because I forget what time it aired when it did air. I was watching a different show on a different channel. In my area, there was one VHF channel that was independent and two UHF channels that were also independent. Those were the good old days when such channels showed cartoons in the morning and afternoon, before and after school, reruns of classic sitcoms and other such shows, and old movies, and even their own newscasts. It seems television in those days had more relevance because of limited selection and few people had cable. When you had three networks, PBS, and an independent channel or two, shows were of good quality, and even if the selections were limited, you weren't disappointed with whatever you wanted to watch. Now with something like 400 cable channels and a dozen or so streaming services, as my girlfriend often tells me, less is more. In this case, she's right. What's on television nowadays is awful. As for the original Thundercats, it aired from 1985 to 1988 and had 130 episodes. It was produced by Rankin Bass, the same animation company that made Christmas specials like Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. Thundercats spawned two spin-offs, Silverhawks and Tiger Sharks. Silverhawks aired from 1986 to 1988 and had 65 episodes. Tiger Sharks also aired for 65 episodes from 1987 to 1989. The basis for Thundercats was sort of similar to that of Superman's backstory. They escaped their planet Thundera, and it was about to explode and settled on a planet called Third Earth. Once on their new world, the Thundercats dealt with an evil entity known as Mumra, the Ever-Living. He's normally a mummified living corpse, but with a spell, he becomes this hideous entity with unbelievable power. Like most shows in the 1980s, the Thundercats started out as a line of action figures. In 2011, a sequel was made with the same premise of the original series. Many had complimented this series for its stellar artwork and character design. In spite of this, though, it only lasted one season on Cartoon Network. Thundercats' original series and its revival were great shows. I'm sorry, though, that I am not 100% prolific on it. As for Thundercats Roar, it gets a whole series of unsportsmanlike conduct penalties. One thing it did have going for it, it was to followed the same premise as the original, by escaping a dying planet and settling on a new one. But that's where the similarities end. I mean, just look at this artwork for starters. Whoever drew these characters this way must have been stoned or drunk. There's no other way to describe it. Like with the new She-Ra series, this was more of a comedic type show and not the serious action adventure drama the original series was. As for a USCFL side note, the Thundercats as an independent team also joined the league in 1987 along with She-Ra and the Hanna-Barbera All-Stars. The team won Go for the Gold 28 in 1992 against Woody Woodpecker, with Chitara getting the Game MVP award. Today they are now part of an 80s All-Stars team, and they won the inaugural Disney Bowl championship. No Thundercat character won the Game MVP award, but they played a concerted role in winning the title. Now, let's talk about Teen Titans Go. But first, let's talk about the original Teen Titans series and the touchdowns it gets. For starters, the artwork in the original series was nothing short of spectacular. It used both Western and anime style art. The stories were gripping and full of both action and humor. The relationship the five Titans had were compelling, as they were inseparable. Robin's budding affections towards Starfire, Raven conquering her demonic father, Beast Boy's feelings towards Raven, as well as his contribution to the team, and Cyborg's technological knowledge. The show aired on both Cartoon Network and Kids WB from 2003 to 2007 and had 65 episodes. I didn't have cable in those days, and the show was on WB so that I could watch it as well. Fans were mad over the fact that the show ended on a cliffhanger, but otherwise they loved this series and wanted back for at least one more season to resolve the cliffhanger once and for all. Now for the unsportsmanlike conduct penalties Teen Titans Go has. As far as I'm concerned, I like good comedy and humor, and I like Teen Titans Go. However, not many people think that way. They look at Teen Titans Go as an insult to the original series, especially the poor artwork and character designs. I admit that they do have a point. For instance, in both Starfire and Raven's cases, they mostly appear floating. I know they can fly, but really? Do they really have to fly all the time or stand floating? Robin's immaturity, along with Beast Boy and Cyborg's acting like two playground rivals. We here at the USCFL network have both shows in our library. For Teen Titans Go, the show has the second largest number of shows, only to Adventure Time in our Cartoon Network lineup. We have all 278 episodes of Adventure Time to Teen Titan Go's 260 episodes, with Steven Universe being a distant third with 154 episodes. But overall, this show could have done a whole lot better. The only good thing going for it is they maintained the original voice artists. As for the USCFL side note, the Teen Titans didn't come into the league as an independent team and were split up. Because of Robin's long-term relationship to Batman, Robin is on the DC Comics All-Stars team, while the others are on the Warner Brothers team. I didn't know it back then that the show aired on Cartoon Network as well. If I had known this, the Titans, except for Robin, would be on the Cartoon Network team, or all of them with DC Comics. Beast Boy is the Go for the Gold game MVP when he had a pick six against Star Trek in Go for the Gold 45 in 2008. And finally, let's talk about the new He-Man series, or the new series that's supposed to feature He-Man. But first, let's talk about the original series and the touchdowns it has. He-Man is beloved by millions of fans all over the world. Like with most shows made in the 1980s, the show was modeled after a line of action figures. The Masters of the Universe line was introduced in 1981. The popularity of the toys prompted Mattel to hire Filmation to create a show featuring the action figures and associated toys. Some have said the He-Man show was the first or one of the first infomercials ever. Other toy lines followed this lead. G.I. Joe, the Transformers, Jem and the Holograms, Mask, Cops, My Little Pony, and other entities that were toys on greeting cards and other such properties were immortalized with an animated series. And as I mentioned before, the popularity of the action figures and TV series prompted Mattel to make a line of action figures for girls and a TV series to follow. And as I also stated, Mattel made the action figures, but it was Filmation who created the lore of both He-Man and She-Ra. Mr. Kevin Smith, if you happen to see this video, and for your information, sir, He-Man premiered on television in 1983 and aired until 1985. With He-Man appearing in She-Ra episodes, he was seen until 1986. However, I didn't see the movie in 1987, and I can't comment on that, or the 1990 reboot, which was too different to compare with the original series. I agree with most people that the 2002 remake is awesome. When we do these episode runoffs, we prove in a different way that if these rebooted shows are so great, let's see if they can stack up to the original series. We did this with She-Ra, now we're doing it with He-Man. If you haven't seen our runoff concerning He-Man, we are doing a 3-show runoff. The original 1983 series against the 2002 remake against the new series. Look for Round 5's video soon. As for the score, the original series is leading with 29 points, followed by the 2002 remake with 26 points, and the new series bringing up the rear with 22 points. See how they'll do in the Round 5 video. To you young people out there, if you don't know what these shows were like, just ask your parents or someone you know outside your family who might have grown up in the 1970s or 80s. They will set the record straight and will tell you that these rebooted shows, no matter how they may look or are perceived, can never hold a candle to the original series. Now for the unsportsmanlike conduct penalties the new show has. Where to begin? I agree that the artwork in the new series is phenomenal. It's better than even the 2002 remake. Up until a certain point, the character designs were also pretty accurate, but that's where the accolades end. To do a He-Man series without He-Man is like ordering a cheeseburger and hold the cheese. In the original series and the 2002 remake, Teela was already a good character, a competent warrior, a good judge of character, and cared for those around her. But to turn her into what she's become now, I'm scratching my head along with most other people too. I don't work in Hollywood. I don't work for any TV or movie studios or serials. And I am not a Hollywood writer, actor, producer, director, or studio executive. I'm just a fan who likes good material. When I see other YouTube videos concerning these rebooted shows, they're asking the same questions as I am asking now. Why? Why ruin the best memories of childhood? Why destroy established franchises and turn them into pandering garbage? And what is the purpose of making characters different than they were before? I get it that we now live in a different world than people like me grew up in. I'm all for diversity. I'm all for interpretation. I'm all for equality on all fronts of religious, ethnic, and social backgrounds. But I'm not in favor of making shows of the past into shows that will be forgotten in the very near future. That's what the new series has done. I like the movie Clerks because of my time in the retail industry. And I can relate to the clerks, for I worked for 2 years in convenience stores and more than 10 years in supermarkets, along with 3 years in discount department stores. But what Kevin Smith did to He-Man, what Noelle Stevenson did to She-Ra, and other showrunners who've ruined other past franchises is absolutely heinous. There's no need to turn Tila into a mercenary with a weird haircut. There was no need to kill He-Man off not once, but twice. Certainly there was no need to kill off Orko, Mossman, or even Skeletor either. But of course the biggest problem of this new series was apparently Kevin Smith saying that this new series was to bring closure to the original series, but instead lied about the show's true intentions. If he wanted to do a show that did revolve around Tila, he could have done so without lying about it. And what I have seen in other videos where others have said was that this will eventually ruin Kevin Smith's career in Hollywood and his overall stature as a person. Believe me when I tell you, this show has gotten so many unsportsmanlike conduct penalties that Kevin Smith should have been ejected from the game long ago. Now then, Mr. Smith, Miss Stevenson, which 80s animated show or shows would you like to ruin next? As for the USCFL side note, He-Man's contributions to the league are noteworthy. Like She-Ra, He-Man joined the league in 1985 along with the Transformers. Both entities did something that is now a rule today. They established the good guy, bad guy style of play, which means that in this league, a good or heroic character plays on offense, while an evil or villainous character plays on defense. Not every defensive player is bad or evil, but if they are, they're on defense, while both entities play on special teams. He-Man defeated She-Ra in Go for the Gold 25 in 1990 and scored 63 points, which is still the most points ever scored in a championship game. Along with She-Ra, He-Man won Go for the Gold 48 in 2011 as part of the Masters of Power. He-Man took over for She-Ra in that game after she suffered an injury late in the first quarter, trailing the Smurfs, who played in their 13th and final championship game, led 26-9 at the start of the fourth quarter. He-Man threw 3 touchdown passes in a 31-point blitz to win the game 40-33. Before the 2 She-Ra games were played, this was the greatest game ever played in USCFL history. In conclusion, when I was growing up in the 1970s and as a teenager in the 1980s, I learned about how valuable the contributions women have made over the years. I was raised by both my mother and my maternal grandmother. That's when I learned from an early age how strong of both character and nature women can be. The first girl I ever had a crush on was better at sports than me. The equal rights movement dominated the news in the 1970s. My mother, who was physically disabled, didn't let nothing stop her, and shows on television and at the movies at the time were little by little showing women in a more empowering light. Even in animated shows, this was the case. Daphne Blake of Scooby-Doo was the classic damsel in distress up until 1979, when she, Fred, and Velma were removed from the series. When she was brought back to the series in 1983, and since then, she's been portrayed as both being independent and confident, now being able to take care of herself. Have you heard of the Smurfette principle? It was named for her because she was the only female Smurf in a village that was otherwise populated by male Smurfs. If shows like this existed, the Smurfette principle will apply. It was also during this time when female animated characters were in the spotlight by being the stars of their own series. She-Ra, Gem, Rainbow Bright, Strawberry Shortcake, and even My Little Pony paved the way for other such shows like Kim Possible, the Powerpuff Girls, and Star versus the Forces of Evil. Again, there's nothing wrong with strong female characters being at the head of the line, but it has to be done right. To take all the femininity out of a character, making them look like they can bench press a Buick, not wearing makeup, or even have long hair, isn't right. In Tila's case, she was a short-haired redhead in the original series, but her hairstyle was of a feminine nature. So she wore a skimpy outfit. Big, hairy deal. Please, some women flash more in church. And her boobs were of a nice proportion and not a Jessica Rabbit type deal. I'm the last man to still think that a woman's place is at home or in the kitchen or being barefoot and pregnant. They can't be their own bosses, running huge corporations, being the mayors of cities or governors of states. I'm not like that. I'm glad I lived to see a female vice president, and it's only a matter of time when we will have a female president in the White House. It almost happened, and I would embrace it if that ever happens. I do have an eye for beauty, but I don't gawk over it. I don't drive in my car, roll down the window, and wolf whistle at a pretty girl walking down the street. That's not my style. Nor is it my style to have one-night stands, pick up chicks in bars, and so on. When I see what the Hollywood of today has done to the great animated shows of the past, like many of you, has angered me immensely. I've also heard in these videos, why can't Hollywood come up with something new? I wrote a series of stories about an original series of characters. You can see the reviews for it here on this channel, for Bob Wilson rated and reviewed my characters, the Style Chicks. What makes them so special? For starters, the Style Chicks are a group of young women who are superheroines led by their leader, Fashion Girl. She's Daphne Blake's daughter and a world-class supermodel using style to fight crime. Unlike her famous mother and her friends, Fashion Girl doesn't solve mysteries. She works on cases and immediately knows who she's dealing with almost right away. The Style Chicks are named after department stores because of again, my experience working in retail. But one thing Fashion Girl has told all of them is to be women first and heroines second. If they want a separate career, boyfriends or husbands, and raising families, they should do so. And most of all, they are real women with real proportions. Look into it, and I think you'll agree that they are what Hollywood needs right now. And my belief that women can do anything is why the USCFL is a co-ed league. I thank you for watching this special video. To close things out, I prepared a special USCFL TV music video featuring the shows I talked about in this video in their original forms. Until we meet again, this is Robbie Graham of the USCFL Network wishing you peace. Take care and stay safe.
was a victim of circumstance. I still belong. Don't get me wrong. You can speak your mind, but not on my time. They will tell you you can't sleep alone in a strange place. Then they'll tell you you can't sleep with somebody else. Ah, but sooner or later you sleep in your own space. Either way, it's okay, you wake up with yourself. I don't need you to worry for me, 'cause I'm alright. I don't want you to tell me it's time to come home. I don't care what you say anymore, this is my life. Go ahead with your own life, leave me alone. Never said you had to offer me a second chance. I never said I was a victim of circumstance. I still